Welcome to Ilagan Whiteboard Friday, where we look at complex legal and compliance issues in a simple to do ways. This series is brought to you by Ilagan, your partner and provider of end-to-end business services.
Hello and welcome to Ilagan Whiteboard Friday, where we look at various complex taxation and compliance related issues in a user-friendly manner so that the business owners can understand them properly. Today we will look at service tax versus TDS. We have been oftenly getting a lot of questions from multiple entrepreneurs that I have raised an invoice and my customer has deducted a service tax. What is TDS? What is service tax? Because these are the two major things which impact the service industry. So today we will look at it what it is. So service tax is actually something that you charge when you are raising an invoice to your client. For example, say if your invoice amount was ₹1,00,000, then you charge, say if the service tax is around 12%, then you charge about ₹12,000 as service tax and raise an invoice of ₹1,12,000 to the invoice. Whereas TDS is something when a customer is making you a payment, so the invoice that you have raised, when they are making the payment, they deduct as per the law 10% TDS on it. Now to know more about what is service tax is actually an indirect tax which goes to a very different account, and TDS is actually a part of your direct tax, or you can say it is an income tax that is being deducted. To know more about what exactly is service tax, when it is applicable, TDS, various implications of TDS, you can look at our other videos on TDS and service tax where we have covered these topics in detail. Now, so service tax is something that you charge to your client, whereas TDS is deducted by your customer when they are making the payment to you. You also deduct a TDS when you are making a payment to any of your vendor. For example, like your employees, so you deduct a TDS on their salaries. If you have hired a consultant, then you deduct a TDS on their payments. Or if there is a rental payment, then also you deduct a TDS. So whoever deducts the TDS, they deposit it with the income tax department and your account. Okay, we have deducted this much TDS from this person. And whereas the service tax, when you collect it from the customer, then you go and deposit it to the service tax department, that is done by you. So these are the major two differences, and you should not confuse about, so many people say, hey, I had raised an invoice and these guys have deducted a service tax, which is actually not a deduction of service tax. The customer always deducts a TDS. Till last year what happened, the service tax rate and TDS rate were very same, more or less like 10% kind of thing. So that was one more point of confusion among the customer. Now the service tax rates have changed to 12.36, whereas the TDS still remains at 10%. So we'll take a small look at the example here. So if you look at this, suppose if you had if you delivered a service worth ₹1,000 to your customer, so you raise the invoice like this. ₹1,000 is your service charges. Then you add service tax at the rate of say 12.36, which is the current rate. This rate could keep changing, so please refer to the applicable rate. So which works out to 123.60. So the total invoice that you have raised to the customer is for ₹1,123. Now the customer, when they are making the payment, they are going to deduct 10% TDS on the whole amount. So that on 1123 works out to 112.36. So the customer would deduct this amount and then give you only 1011.24, more or less very close to what your original service charges was. So you may not be happy because this 1011 also includes the service tax that you have to pay to the government. So now this much 123 you had collected as service tax, so that you have to deposit it with the government, 123.6. So you are actually left with 887.64. So although your service charge only was ₹1,000, you had added service tax, so total invoice was 1123. But see that you are only left with this much money, which you can actually use it for any purpose that you want. So that's the difference. This money, the service tax, you have to pay to the government. TDS is something which your customer deducts and then they go and deposit it with the income tax department. The customer will give you a form 16A after filing the TDS returns, at the end of the year or at the end of a quarter, depending on customer to customer. And so please don't confuse between what is service tax. Service tax is something that you charge when you raise an invoice, and TDS is something when you deduct when you are making a payment. So that's the major difference between service tax and TDS. That's it on this. Thank you for attending eLagan Whiteboard Friday. If you have more queries, you can always write to us at support@elagan.com, or you can check out our extensive knowledge base at elagan.com/kv. Thank you.